88 Films releases on Blu-ray director Ronny Yu's 1982 Hong Kong action thriller melodrama extravaganza, The Postman Strikes Back. This is not a before-the-fact sequel to Kevin Costner's The Postman, just so you know. This stars Leung and Chow Yun-fat, who would go on to be a huge star in Hong Kong just a few years after this. At this point, he had done mostly TV work and hadn't really done any successful films. He'd been in films, but they had tanked. I learned all this from the extras on this disc. And apparently the deal was Chow Yun-fat was in some kind of a contract or legal dispute with TVB, which was the Hong Kong TV network that he worked for, and he couldn't shoot a film in Hong Kong, so they had to go to, I think, Taiwan or something. They had to basically leave the country to shoot this film with Chow Yun-fat. This is a film I'd never heard of before, and it was really pretty cool, pretty interesting. Some really good action in this film. Basic idea here is that there is this, I guess this takes place around the time of the Chinese Revolution. So there are such things as, mechanical things. This isn't like the old long ponytail Shaw Brothers classic era period in Chinese history. It's slightly, I think it's the 1920s, I want to say. So postmen are still these guys, or at least this film revolves around a postman. This is Leung, who walks from town to town, up and down the dial, delivering the mail to people. Simple guy. He is hired by this mysterious guy who says, here's a series of boxes, a couple boxes. If you can deliver these, don't look inside. You can't look inside and see what they are, but I will pay you handsomely if you deliver these from point A to point B to this guy. It's a gift. And along with our postal hero, we have Chow Yun-fat and a couple other people who go on this journey, and ragtag band of misfits with various martial arts skills. And everybody wants the box. Somebody's trying to get the box. What's in the box? Get the box. So that leads to all kinds of fun action sequences, the coolest of which was apparently, right, Ronny Yu says it on the commentary, it was inspired by the film Slapshot, the Hanson brothers in Slapshot, the fisticuffs hockey players, dim of wit. And there is basically a hockey fight in this film. They're crossing a frozen lake, and our band of heroes are crossing a frozen lake, and they look up, and coming at them are all kinds of bad guys on ice skates, and it's this really cool on the ice fight scene. And there's other kinds of really cool action throughout the film too. It does lean toward melodrama a bit. Chow Yun-fat is very charismatic and very cool to see in a movie, again, that it wasn't really until I want to say A Better Tomorrow where The Killer was really huge for him with John Woo, and that was later in the decade of the 80s. This is 82, so this is right at the beginning. So it's interesting to see him just before he would explode into cinematic superstardom. Very much inspired by American Westerns. That's mentioned too in the extras, like The Wild Bunch and The Professionals were inspirations for the film. So it's got a little bit of a different flair. It doesn't feel like the classic old style martial arts film, but it's also not set in the modern day. So Eastern Western is kind of what they refer to it as here. It's fun overall, but there are some like super dark moments in this, especially toward the end. There's a sequence that's just like shockingly serious and dark, and you're like, okay, they're really not messing around. But the action in it is great. The action choreography is great. The foo in the film is great. I want to say Yuen Wu-ping had something to do with this film. I believe his name was in the credits, and it was really interesting to see. It was interesting to see a Hong Kong action flick that had so much of its running time set in snowy climes, mountainous, snowy areas, which is really atypical for Hong Kong Chinese martial arts films. It's never been done, but it really wasn't a thing that you see very much, to a degree that it stood out to me. It's also interesting to me to see Chow Yun-fat not packing heat, not having guns and doing all kinds of gunplay, which is what he became known for, but doing actual like martial arts and things like that. And he has an arrow shooting wrist brace or dart. So you see him throughout the film. So it's almost like, Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver with the gun that shoots into his hand. This is a little that he can shoot a little arrow at people, which was pretty cool. A little bit of a Bondian kind of thing here. The music is odd. It sounds very canned. It sounds like stock music from like a decade or two earlier, which is a little unusual to me. So much Hong Kong music was very synthesizer or keyboardy as the decade went on, but it's interesting to hear it much more orchestral, but also sounding older than the film does. And the film looks unbelievable on this transfer. It doesn't look like an old movie. Skin tones are super natural. Contrast is great. I'm so used to it's impressive to me every time that I get one of these Hong Kong films from the 70s and 80s, especially from the 80s and 90s, which is the stuff that I was seeing those in the theaters in Boston. I was seeing the VCDs and the DVDs and the VHS and the Laserdiscs and all that. And to see them look unbelievable is just, it brings joy to my cold, cold heart. So what are the extras on this? I'll show you the packaging too. The packaging is really cool. We have the Hong Kong cut. You can watch multiple cuts too. I love how they do this with 88 films, and Arrow does this as well, where they give you basically every kind of iteration of the film you could want in one package. If you happen to have only ever grown up with a certain version of it, they put it on there so you can at least get the nostalgia factor, even if it wasn't the best version of the film to see. You get the Hong Kong cut that was 90 minutes with original Cantonese mono, English SDH subtitles, commentary by director Ronny Yuen and Hong Kong film expert Frank Zheng, who's done a lot of these releases and is great because he personally knows a lot of these people, lived in Hong Kong, worked for Tai Seng Video, knows all the ins and outs of the film industry. There's a supplementary commentary, so there's a second commentary with Frank Zheng. He has the sniffles during this commentary, and he apologizes for having allergies, but he keeps sniffling. And they're as somebody who does a lot of video and audio editing, somebody could easily have snipped that stuff out. So that kind of bugged me a little bit. They're just like, it's a little gross to listen to, and it's just take it out there. He's not doing it while he's talking. You have the export cut of the film, which is 89 minutes. That's English 5.1 audio, English mono with an alternate score, and a commentary with Stephen Hammond from, it's taken from the old Hong Kong Legends DVD. Hong Kong Legends was a great, the first really proper presentations I ever saw of Hong Kong films was this British series of DVD releases called Hong Kong Legends. They were PAL Region 2 discs. They're dated now in terms of a lot of it being standard def and 4:3 and all that stuff, but the content was great. And it's nice to see that stuff carried over onto some of these newer releases from companies that are putting these films out again. And in some of the extras, you see clips of the film as it would have looked on the DVD. And it really, again, illustrates how much way better this stuff looks in these new releases by 88 Films, these new HD transfers, than they did on DVD, which at the time were the best the stuff ever looked. There is, we have interview with Chow Yun Fat. That's 4:3 archival interview from the Hong Kong Legends discs. That's 7 minutes. Interview with Leung Yan, number 1. So we have 2 of these. The first one is 4:3 archival from Hong Kong Legends disc. And that's where they have really the old clips from the DVDs that really show you how much better this Blu-ray looks. You have the Leung Yan interview 2. That's another archival interview. That's 9 minutes. Interview with Ronny Yuen. That's another 4:3 archival Hong Kong Legends release. That's 8 minutes. You have Ronny Yuen in Fat Samurai interview, which is like a YouTube podcast show. So it's Ronny Yuen and Frank Zheng talking about his career a bit, but also mostly about Postman Fights Back. And that's before this release was announced. So I think it was done within the last year or two. You have the original Hong Kong trailer that is 4 minutes with some really fun on-screen descriptive text, which I love. I love textual ballyhoo. And then you get an image gallery that is 2 minutes set to the score. So let's look at the package, shall we? We have newly anointed artwork on the front and a slipcase. This is a slipcase, which, as you know, slips off to reveal the same artwork, and slightly different on the back, a little bit bigger picture on the back than on the slipcase. Crack it open, and we have artwork on the disc, new artwork on the disc. We have a reversible sleeve, if you can see that has the original poster art on it. I love that they do that. And then we have a mini poster printed on nice thick matte finish paper. And on one side, we have the new artwork for the film, and on the other side, we have the original theatrical artwork for the film. 88 often does that with these Hong Kong releases, and I love that they do that. So available now on Blu-ray from 88 Films. It very much underseen, rarely talked about Hong Kong film with Chow Yun Fat. It's a lot of fun. Worth it, if nothing else, for the hockey fight and for that incredibly dark moment at the end. The Postman Fights Back.